154 dead, 240 hurt, 10,000 displaced, and 24 homes destroyed. Where was God in Moore, Oklahoma?
Restoring hope, open my heart to sing, taking the darkness inside, revealing your light, restoring hope, open my eyes to see the world through different eyes, revealing your light, restoring hope.
5 minutes after the hour on this 26th day of May. Yes, this is a live show on Channel 131 XM Sirius. Welcome to all of our Christian friends, our seeking friends out there on this beautiful Memorial weekend. I hope it's nice where you are. Now, if you're in the Catskills of New York, you have a foot of snow. If you are in Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, you are in a tornado warning right now. It's just crazy what's going on, but it is the Lord's world. He'll use it as he will. And today we have a special tribute show to the folks in Moore, Oklahoma. Now, there's one disadvantage of being at this time of day, on this particular day. Right now is when President Obama is on the ground in Moore, and they're having a church service. So we were unable to get some of the better named people that have been all over Fox and CNN. So I decided that I'd go to the ground, and I'd get some folks that are passionate, who have been through tornadoes, in Moore, Oklahoma, to come on and talk about what's going on down in Moore. We've got the statistics, but the question continually gets asked, where was God? We had this question posed to me on Facebook earlier this week. Where was your God? I always like those questions. Where was your God in Norman or in Moore, Oklahoma?
Like their God wasn't there.
Yeah, it's that atheistic question about if there was a God, he'd only be a loving, grace-filled God. He wouldn't allow anything bad to happen. And I don't know what fantasy world they live in, but it isn't anything I live in. Maybe Finding Nemo. So here's this expert panel we've got today. We've got people that are going to join us on the phone. I've got Bob Montserrat, who is part of our show, but his hobby, is that fair to say?
Well, it's second job.
Okay, is with DMORT, D-M-O-R-T, which stands for?
Disaster Mortuary Operational Response Team.
And in many cases, you would have been on the ground right now in Moore, Oklahoma.
I was put on alert, but thankfully there weren't that many deaths that would require our team.
Yeah, your team goes in and actually identifies bodies.
That's correct.
So what's the threshold for something like that?
Well, when we were listening, the count was going up. It was at 51, and then later it went up to 91. It would have been a deployment if it stayed between 50 and 91, probably, because if it overwhelms the local people, then we go in to assist them.
So big cases that you've worked on, like New York?
Right, 9/11 was one, Hurricane Katrina, another. We were in Joplin for that tornado because there were 167 there.
Wow.
The other person we have who is just part of our team here, but has this wonderful hobby that focuses in on today's show, and that's Chris. And do you say that you're an amateur storm chaser? Are you a professional storm chaser?
No, I'm an amateur storm chaser.
But you're passionate about it.
Yes, yeah. Very interested in storms. My wife is too, so we go out and we're storm spotters first and foremost.
Okay.
We like to go out and try and help get warnings out there.
So most people go to baseball games, football games, you go to watch tornadoes.
That's right.
And on Chris's Facebook page, it's great to have him there because he'll put different parts of the country up on the weather maps. So I'm trying to think, you're like that couple from Tornado. Who was that couple?
Oh, Twister?
Yeah, Twister. There you go. That's you and your wife.
Yeah, it's kind of, sort of.
All right, so that's the team assembled today, along with Dr. Reverend Michael Hartwig, who's my co-host on this show. I want to first go to Randy, okay, on the phone. And Randy, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Hey, Randy, how are you today? God bless you for being here.
Well, thank you. I look forward to it.
Now, Randy, if I understand, your wife, Patty, and your son live just outside of Moore, Oklahoma. Your home was not impacted this time, but in 1999, you were impacted quite heavily.
That's correct, Mac. The F5 tornado actually literally went across our back on May 3rd, 99.
And what was left of your home?
Well, the only thing left of our home was a 3x3 piece of carpet, and that's where we were on top of the carpet. It completely wiped everything off the slab except for that piece of carpet and us.
So you were standing right there in the middle of what used to be your house?
Well, we weren't standing. We were trying to get as close to that concrete foundation as we could. We were pressing pretty hard against it.
Did you feel like being sucked up in it?
You know, we never did feel like we were being sucked up. We were getting pounded by debris, and I was getting pounded by golf balls and bricks. And there was a large horseshoe-sized cut on my wife's arm that went all the way to the bone. It never bled. But the strange thing about that, even though we were getting hammered with stuff, we never felt pain.
Wow.
Even afterwards?
Well, my wife, when she was getting stitched up at the hospital, that's when it first started hurting. And we were bruised up, and I had minor cuts all over me. And relatively speaking, it wasn't real painful. But, yeah, you could feel it a few days afterwards.
We've seen the pictures from 1999, from 2013, and it's just devastating to see the before and after, where there's homes and schools and parks and street signs and automobiles and kids playing, and then 16 minutes later, it's all gone. One of the things that we can't sense through television or radio is the smell. What does it smell like outside after a disaster like this, Randy?
Well, for us, it was just heavy and natural gas. It was just almost, you couldn't breathe. It was just so heavy because all the gas lines are severed, and they're all pouring out natural gas in the air. So it's really an awful smell.
Yeah, we noticed in the beginning coverage of the Moore, Oklahoma tragedy, there was one house. There was an area where the houses were okay, but one house was in flames, and I'm assuming that's what happened there, something with the gas or something, because the house was standing. So you've been in there helping the folks of Moore, Oklahoma. Obviously, when we started this tragedy out that afternoon and the next day, they were reaching death tolls of into the 90s. Now it's been reduced to 24, which is still way too many, but it's the children. Those kids that were killed, that has to be the thing that's hanging over Moore, Oklahoma so heavily today.
Yes, and it's just gut-wrenching regarding the children. You know, on the material stuff, it's all God's anyway, and we're just stewards over the material, and that can be replaced. A word you hear often in the area is, well, that was inconvenient. And losing stuff is just inconvenient, but the kids, the children, it's tough. We have a teacher who was at Briarwood, and a friend of ours, and she was covering up children. And obviously there's more children than teachers, so the teachers could only cover up so many, and that's very emotionally difficult for them, knowing that they were covering up some and not others. So.
Yeah, I don't remember who did the interview, but somebody on TV interviewed, it was Channel 5, or it was ABC, interviewed the principal and 4 of the teachers. And the one woman who he's talking about, poor woman, I mean, at one point she's being heralded as a hero, which she is, but then she speaks and she says, "I'm just a failure. You know, I had 9 kids and I lost 3 of them. You know, and
wow.
Which one of those wouldn't you choose to lose again?" Right. All right, well, when the tornado hit your home and wiped it out, you have quite a God story, quite a testimony to share with people. And Randy, I'll ask that you hold on. And when we come back, I want you to share that story. Also, Tony Liston is on the line with us. He'll be on later on. He's going to answer the question to you, well, what can I do? How can I help? Some faith-based initiatives that give you an opportunity to help the folks down there in Oklahoma. The names: Sydney Vargas, 7 months old. Katrina Vargas, 4 years old. Jenny Neely, 38. Antonio Cassandra, 9. These are the names of the bodies that will be buried this week in Moore, Oklahoma. So where was God? Reverend Dr. Hartwig later on will help us understand the answer to that question. Here live on Restoring Hope. Restoring Hope. addiction treatment is all the same. Whether you're addicted to pornography or whether you're addicted to Miller beer, there's still addiction. And I've got Joe Mites here from St. Gregory's. And if everything's an addiction treatment, then why are shows like this so important for St. Gregory to be around?
That's a really good question, because this format really talks about those issues that people are struggling with. What we're really dealing with when we talk about addictions treatment is really getting to those core fundamental issues that are really throwing confusion into people's lives about what's my purpose, how did I get here, what do I do from here, and that's really what we find leads to an addiction. That's a big point for us.
You know, I know that at the end of my addiction, when I was either going to choose to live or die, one of the questions that came out, because I did have a spiritual relationship with God at the time. I didn't know Jesus this well, but I kept saying, what's my purpose? Why am I here? I'm 40-something years old. I've had my kids. I've made money. My wife's okay. Why are you keeping me around?
That's what's really surprising for people as they go through the St. Gregory program, is what the program's really focused on isn't so much about putting Band-Aids on things and helping you find momentary, fleeting bits of happiness or pleasure. We're really breaking down what does it look like to obtain true happiness and true joy. We're really making an effort to help people heal completely from the inside out and help them to reach a higher goal as opposed to just being sober. We're not looking at sobriety as the end goal. We're looking at your life. We're really looking at the big things that you really want to accomplish, not to help not do.
Yeah, because if you're not sober, if you're alcoholic or addicted to drugs or depression medicine or anything like that, you really can't get to start.
That's right. You'll see someone come out of a recovery program when sobriety is their primary focus in life. That's the end game. And they get there and, well, nothing really comes from just sobriety, and they start thinking, is this it? Well, no. The whole point is that's not it. The point is, let's go and achieve things with the rest of your life. Let's really be involved and engaged in those things that really are going to bring you happiness and joy. And that's a very different approach. We really want to make sure that people are grasping this idea that life is very big, and it can be very big for them. And they've come to this point where all they understand is this little world of being caught in the cycle of addiction and dependencies. We're helping to break that, not just for the sake of breaking addiction and dependencies, but so they can go on and live out their life with purpose and meaning.
Yeah, I hear so many people talk about after they get sober and after the desire to drink or drug or whatever is lifted from them, then they realize how messed up their life is.
That's exactly right.
They've been swallowing it and burying it, and they can't feel the pain. And when they begin to feel the pain, that's when somebody like St. Gregory's can come in and, you know, literally one hand at a time, pull them out of that dark hole.
That's right. What St. Gregory Retreat Center does, we're going to start from the beginning. We're going to really get a full understanding of what's truly going on here. And by that, I'm not talking about, well, you drink too much or you're using drugs. The real problem is what is the emotional turmoil that's really causing you to respond to life in an unhealthy way? How do we help you to challenge those beliefs that you may have about yourself in a way that helps you not to just move on with life and not be reactive to things, but truly understand the real logic behind why are you believing what you're believing? How are you really pursuing a life of joy and happiness?
All right, how do we get a hold of St. Gregory's?
You can get a hold of St. Gregory's at 888-778-5833. Our counselors are always available. That's 888-778-5833. The website is stgregoryctr.com, and you can just do a Google search for St. Gregory Retreat Center, and that'll come right up.
Restoring hope, open my heart to sing, taking the darkness inside, revealing your light, restoring hope.
26th day of May in the Lord's year 2013, a Memorial Weekend like no other in Moore, Oklahoma. Good afternoon, good morning. I'm J. Michael McCoy, and this is RestoringHopeLive.com, live on Channel 131, Family Christian Station, on XM Sirius, on 99.3 KTIA, to all of our friends in Columbus. And we just thank you for taking the time. We know there's lots of things you could be choosing to do right now, but you're listening to us. Now, if you want to hear a a podcast of this show later on to give to your friends. It'll be on Facebook. It'll also be on our website, restoringhopelive.com. That's the best place for you to go. And Chris makes sure that every show is up there, and it'll be up within moments of the end of the show. All right. This is a show in tribute to Moore, Oklahoma. And in a way, it's a great time to do this show because right now, Moore, Oklahoma is burying their dead. Right now, Moore, Oklahoma is listening to President Obama speak to a non-denominational citywide church service. These people are hurting. They need our help. And how can we help them? In a little bit, we're going to talk to a young man who traveled down to Moore, Oklahoma, working with several churches in your area and giving you an opportunity to help out, pitch a hand. But before that, I want to go to Randy, who was in the tornado, the F5 that struck Moore, Oklahoma 14 years ago. He's there now to assist people in helping, but he's got an incredible God story. Randy, set it up for us. It's April 3rd, 1999. You and your wife and son are... Oh, no, your son's not born yet, right?
Yeah, he was 2.5 years old.
Okay.
And it was May 3rd, 99, and we're at the house, and we were watching, as everyone else was, the TV and the tornado, and looked like it was going to miss us by about a mile, and suddenly it took a turn, and it started heading right for our house. We took cover in the closet and bedroom closet, and we huddled down real close, and my wife, Patty, covered up Levi, my son, and I covered up Levi, and we prayed. We prayed for protection. And then the F5, we could hear it coming. It was very loud. It hit our house and basically took everything away. We were suddenly outside and getting pelted with golf balls and bricks and various things, and we were both covering up our son. When it was over, we were the first one out of our house because we had nothing to get out of. It was all gone. And our neighbors were buried under rubble. So Patty had a big gash on her arm, and it never bled. But I felt I needed to send her to the hospital and unbury my neighbors. A lot of neighbors were calling out for help, and you know, you have to choose which one to help out first. So I started uncovering people and digging them out. And a firefighter came up on the scene, and there's a lot of natural gas in there, and he said, "We got to get out of here." And so we did. I helped the neighbor out to the nearest intersection, and Channel 5 was there with a TV reporter. And he said, "Sir, can I get your story? Are you okay? And where did you live?" And all I could think of, I need to get to a phone and call my mom so she knows I'm still alive. She's, listening to this and seeing this, and she might have a heart attack and die seeing this thing. And I thought came in my head, go to Levi's babysitter, who's about a mile south, and I run through the worst war zone you can imagine to get to her house. And she's not home. And I'm running through her addition, running around for who knows how long, and no one's there. I can't find anyone.
So her house is standing.
Her house is standing. She's fine, but no one's home, and no one's even outside in the neighborhood, which is extremely weird. And I keep running around, and I see this guy. He's looking at his pickup truck out in the driveway. Looks just like Jeff Foxworthy. And I said, "Sir, can I use your phone? I just lost my house. I need to call my mom so she knows I'm still alive and check on my wife." And he looks at me and kind of cocks his head. He said, "I'm sorry, sir, but I don't know you. You can't use my phone." And my exact thoughts at the time, were, I'm about to break a commandment.
Yeah.
I'm going to kill this guy. I mean, I'm so mad, and I'm actually moving towards him. I thought, no, I've got to go find a phone. He probably doesn't even have a phone. I want to go find a phone, and then I want to come back and visit this guy. And I'm walking, down the sidewalk, and I'm almost ashamed to share this with you, but am I thinking about how my family was just protected from a bad tornado and saved us and all this? No, I'm angry, and I'm very angry. I'm like, God, why are you doing this after all I've been through tonight? You know what I need to do. You know I need to get to a phone. Why are you doing this to me? So, a lot of people have that question at various times. and I'm just so angry. And I come upon this lady who's been crying, obviously crying. Her face is very puffy. You could just tell she's been bawling. I said, "Ma'am, can I use your phone?" She said, "Sure." And she said, "Where do you live?" And I said, "East Lake Patio Homes." And she looks at me, she goes, "That's where my mom lives, and they won't let us through. And she won't answer her phone. Is it bad?" I said, "Yes, ma'am, it's really bad." And I said, "Where did your mom live in East Lake?" And she says, "Shorehand Court." And I go, "Well, that's where I live, and I know most everyone on my street. What's her name?" And she told me, and I go, "I'm sorry, I don't know her." I said, "Where exactly did she live?" And she said, "When you first turn on our street, Shorehand Court, she's the first house on the left." And I stopped her right there. I said, "Yeah, I know exactly who you're talking about." And she's okay because I pulled her out.
Mm.
And, what are the odds of that? And to me, that's why that guy wouldn't let me use his phone, because I was destined to find her. She was probably having prayer. I need some answers, and I was the messenger at the time.
Wow.
But how many times do we not get the answer so quick?
Yeah. Wow.
So,
Hey, Randy, what do you think God's taught you through that whole thing?
Well, he continues to try to teach me to be a little more patient. Sometimes I need to be a better learner regarding that. But that he has a plan. And sometimes we get the answer quickly in the answer to why, and sometimes we don't.
So why do you think God allowed this to happen?
I don't know. I gave that testimony to Sunday morning, and as I left, that God was there, God protected us, God helped us. We prayed, and God was there for us. And I was accosted by one lady saying, "Well, where was he for all the other people?"
Do you feel like you're closer to God since you went through this whole ordeal?
Certainly close. We were close before, so I don't know if we were closer or if it's just an extra thread to reinforce it. So we've always been close. So
You're an incredibly blessed man to have God use you in that way.
Right.
I mean, there's no doubt in anybody who's listening that isn't a God thing.
It is, and I have an accountability partner that I visited with beforehand for years, and we prayed together. That I really didn't have a witnessing story to share with people. I said it, because I gave my life over to the Lord, and I was a good person before, and I'm a good person now, and I asked for a witnessing story. Be careful what you ask for.
Yeah. All right, Randy, God bless you and your family. Thanks for coming on the radio. Prayers going out to you and everybody down there. And I look forward to talking to you again, my brother.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. Now, in about 8 minutes, we're going to get with Tony on the line. And Tony is one of those guys. Tony is one of those guys that when people need help, it doesn't matter whether it's in the backyard of the next door neighbor's yard or whether it's halfway across the country. And Tony has gathered with several churches around the Midwest, and he's down on the ground in Moore, Oklahoma, and he's going to tell us how we can help those people from where you're sitting. We're going to make it very easy for you to help. We're not... we'll let you put it to prayer and figure out exactly how you want to help. But Tony's going to give us an idea. And then in the next half hour of the show, you've got some people coming on.
Sue Denny, her neighbor was killed. And she wasn't. She even asked the lady to come and stay with her, and she refused. So
wow,
yeah, great story.
Yeah, 24 dead, 240 hurt, 10,000 people displaced. 2,400 homes destroyed. This in a community, barely 56,000 people. In fact, the population went down by 24 in Moore, Oklahoma. Who are they? What are their names? Well, here's a few. Gina Skrominski, age 51. Randy Smith, age 39. Leslie Johnson, age 46. And Richard Brown, age 41. Where was God? Reverend Dr. Michael Hartwig will help us understand that at the end of the show. Meanwhile, thank you for listening. I'm J. Michael McCoy. If I haven't told you lately, thanks. I love this job. Couldn't do it without you here on Restoring Hope.
Restoring hope.
This moment of uncontrollable laughter was made possible by a 32-year-old man with little to no coordination attempting to execute a simple cartwheel. His name is Sergeant Warner, but young James, our laughing friend here, simply calls him Dad. The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Take time to be a dad today. Call 877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
So, Jacqueline.
Yes, Mom?
I wanted to talk to you about something and... Oh, wait. Hold on. I just got a text. Oh, there's another one. Wow. Busy me. So, anyway...
Oh, wait, Mom. I just got a message. My friends keep commenting on my comment. Oh, there's another one. So many comments on my comment.
Oh, I can't wait to watch TV tonight. Playoffs!
Hey, guys, check out my new video game. Pew, pew. Wait, Mom, what?
What? Hold
What'd
on.
you say? Wait a second, what?
This weekend, unplug. Take your family to the forest. There's nothing in the world like experiencing nature firsthand. Trees, paths, bluebirds, streams. Getting closer to nature can get you closer to your family. To find the forest nearest you, go to discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
So, I'm a dog, and I'm kind of new to this family, but I've noticed a trend. My humans do this thing where they go around and get all my toys and hide them in this basket, but it's always the same basket, and it's always the same place, and then they act so surprised when I find them, but I'm like, hello, that's where you put it last time. Humans are the worst at hide and go seek.
A person is the best thing to happen to a shelter pet. Be that person. Adopt. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the ShelterPetProject.org.
The traditional light bulb, a groundbreaking invention in 1879. It's time we switch to longer-lasting Energy Star light bulbs. They're more efficient than the old bulbs, like a text message is more efficient than a carrier pigeon. And they cut down on our energy costs. Because in our own groundbreaking age, we deserve a light bulb that saves us some cash. Saving energy saves you money. Learn more at EnergySavers.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Energy and the Ad Council.
Today in school, I learned a lot. In chemistry, I learned that no one likes me. In English, I learned that I'm disgusting. And in physics, I learned that I'm a loser.
Today in school,
in math,
I learned that I'm ugly and useless.
Trash.
And in gym,
in biology,
I learned that I'm pathetic
that I'm fat
and a joke.
And stupid.
In history,
today
I learned that I'm trash.
Today in school, I learned that I have no friends.
In biology,
in English, I learned that I make people sick.
And
at lunch, I learned that I sit on my own because I smell.
And
in chemistry, I learned that no one likes
me. In biology, I learned that I'm fat and stupid.
In English,
and in math,
that I make people sick.
I learned that I'm trash.
The only thing I didn't learn in school today.
The only thing I didn't learn today.
The only thing I didn't learn
is why no one ever helps.
Kids witness bullying every day. They want to help, but they don't know how. Teach them how to stop bullying and be more than a bystander at stopbullying.gov. A message from the Ad Council.
Make sure your child is up with the alarm and ready for school each morning, because missing just 18 days, even in middle school, will put their graduation at risk. It's up to you. Learn more at boostup.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Army and the Ad Council.
Restoring hope. Open my heart to sing. Taking the darkness inside. Revealing your light. Restoring hope.
26 minutes before the top of the hour on this, the 26th day of May, Memorial Weekend in the Lord's year 2013. And you're listening to RestoringHopeLive.com. This is a program on a weekly basis that deals with habits, hurts, and hang-ups. Sometimes we'll focus on alcohol and drug problems with our friends from St. Gregory's. Sometimes, like today, we'll be on top of what's going on in your world. No matter where you live, you've been affected by More Oklahoma. And today, a special program talking to some of the people on the ground and what we can do. And then in the end, Reverend Dr. Michael Hartwig is going to help us understand, as well as anybody can understand, where was God in Norman, Oklahoma, or in More, Oklahoma? By the way, in Iowa, which we're associated with, it was not too long ago that we had a devastating tornado like this in a town called Parkersburg. It doesn't seem that anybody can live anywhere in the Midwest without knowing some town, somebody that was lost, their lives, their homes, their property, their hope. And what we're trying to do with this program is give you an opportunity to hear some of the things and some of the stories, and also give you an opportunity how you can help. Tony Liston. Tony, how are you? I appreciate you being here today.
I'm good. I'm tired, but I'm good. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, thank you for hanging on for the first half hour. I probably should have just called you later, but I didn't want to miss you. Now,
I've been enjoying the show.
Good. You represent a group of churches, right? Go ahead and tell us what you're doing down there and more.
Sure. I pastor Adventure Community Church in Davenport, and we got a lot of people that like to go and do disaster relief type work. And basically last weekend, we just kind of watched. I was actually celebrating my anniversary with my wife up in Galena. We were watching the things happen down here on live, and I've got a friend, Pastor Stephen Earp at Elevate Church here in Moore, and I texted him just kind of being kind of snarky with him and asking him just intending to be funny, asking him how the weather was. And he sent a note back to me and said they were trying to locate where his daughter's bus was. And I realized how bad it was, and I just told him anything we can do at all, we want to come do. And he said, well, right now, the big need we have is for the first responders, somebody to take care of them because they're taking care of everybody else. And so real quickly, on Tuesday afternoon, we decided I wanted to try to go. And I just put up a Facebook message and told people we were going to be collecting things at our church building from noon on Wednesday until 9 o'clock on Wednesday. My hope was to bring down just a trailer of food and come down and cook brats and hot dogs and hamburgers and pass out chips and just be here just for food, just to come in, not to leave anything behind except full bellies and happy faces when we left. And little did I know, when I thought I'd be lucky to get one 12-foot trailer of food, we ended up with 52 feet of trailer.
Oh, my heavens.
4 different trailers. And we came down and we have been cooking for thousands of people. It has been awesome. And it's been fun working with people. It's been a joy to see people who come up and, well, I'll tell you, bacon makes everything better. And
Amen.
People smell the bacon cooking, and they'd walk out of the rubble and come for 2 or 3 blocks going to get bacon. And we're like, come on up here, we'll make you a sandwich. So it's been good. It's been fun. I think we've been as blessed as what people tell us we're blessing them. Yeah. Maybe even more so.
Now, has the president arrived yet?
Oh yeah, he's here. Pretty much shut down everything. It's going to put cleanup a week behind, but yeah, he's here.
All right. What can those folks listening do? How can they help you?
Sure. If they want to do something in person, I think what they need to do is probably contact a local church in the area and ask them if they're in a denomination or if their pastors have friends. You know, our trip here is churches from 3 or 4 different denominations just came together to come down and help somebody that's also part of a denomination none of us are part of. And but it's just that friend network, the relationships we built through the years, and this is what happens when you create a church family.
Yeah.
And so people have just poured out and come down, and that's really the best way to do it. That way you have eyes on the ground who can say you need to do this or do this, don't do this. I can tell you right now, the last thing they need is more bottled water.
Okay. All right.
Holy smokes. There are pyramids of bottled water that you could live in. You know,
less bottled water and more bacon.
More bacon, yes.
Tony, God bless you and your family, and congratulations on your wedding anniversary, and stay in touch with the program and let us know how your ministry's going.
Yep, absolutely. Thanks.
All right, Tony, thank you very much. Bye-bye. God bless. All right, now we want to go to Sue.
Sue Denny.
All right, and you know Sue. How do you know Sue?
Through a mutual friend. In fact, we have somebody in our church that went down with the Joplin folks to deal with that tornado. And when she was down there, she met Sue and from Moore, Oklahoma. She was over there in Joplin helping there. And so now she's confronted with the same thing. Sue, are you on the line?
Yes, I'm here.
How are you?
I'm good.
Good.
I'm very good, thank you.
Good to hear your voice again. So walk us through what happened to you on that day.
Well, it was had the most wonderful weather people in the world, and they told us a week ahead of time to pay attention because the severe weather was possible for 3 days in a row.
Oh, wow.
And on that Sunday, there were several tornadoes, one that hit Shawnee, Oklahoma, and killed several people. And, we went through the drill that night, getting in the storm shelter. And so, we were a little warmed up already. And then,
so do you have a storm shelter in your house?
I do. I'm very fortunate. I have a ground zero storm shelter that is in the floor of my garage, cemented in. It's a steel shelter, and it holds 12 people.
Wow.
And
so they built that. They built that in the house when they built the garage.
No, it was. I have an existing home. My home was built in '82, and in 2011 they came in and cut a hole in the floor of my garage and set this storm shelter in it in concrete.
Wow. Okay.
So that was after several tornadoes we'd had like the year before. That really runs their business. They get a run on
sure
tornadoes. But so anyway, we were all very aware that something was going to happen even on Monday, and I was at work and I checked the radar, and at 2 o'clock I looked at the radar and I said, I'm leaving, because it takes me normally 20 to 25 minutes to get home, and I have a 93-year-old mother that lives 4 blocks north of me in a retirement village, and I wanted to get to her because our family makes a plan when we have bad weather as to who gets who and where we all are. And my job was to get her and get to my house, and then the rest of them were coming. And it took me 45 minutes when it's normally, and it was very scary during that time because I was listening to the weather on the radio, and they were telling where it was on the ground and heading in. And so anyway, I was able to get to my mom's house.
Oh, no.
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we just cut
You're
in
kind of
for a little
breaking
bit.
up.
Yep.
Okay, she's 93 and has heart issues, but I didn't want to upset her, so I pulled up and opened the back door of my car, and I said, hop in, Mom. And she said, I just went for a walk. And I thought, oh, my gosh, what is she walking around in bad weather? But anyway, she hopped in the car. I drove home the 4 blocks to my house, and I pulled into my garage and pressed the opener and shut the door. And I opened her back door, and I said, hop in the shelter, Mom. And she said, already? And I said, yes. And I got her down there and went and rounded up my 2 cats, put them in there. And about 5 minutes later, my niece and her husband and their 2 children, who are 16 and 11, showed up in their truck, and they came in the house, and they were watching the TV for a few minutes, and it was just crossing Highway 35, which is about a mile and a quarter west of me. And I said, get in here, you've got to come into the shelter. So they came down, and we locked the door on the shelter, and all 6 of us got into a little huddle right in the middle of the shelter and held hands and prayed.
Oh, wow.
And we heard it come, and we could hear it, and it sounded like a jet at full throttle, and you could literally hear it grinding in the ground as it came, and the ground vibrated. You could feel the motion, but the shelter was very, very sturdy. I was so impressed with how solid we felt in there.
So did you have lights in the shelter?
We had flashlights and our phones, of course. We could still get the internet, but I had the garage light on when we went in, and you could see the light through the 2 vent holes in the shelter door. And I watched those lights, and I saw them flicker once, and then they went out, and I knew we were in trouble then. And it was probably from the beginning of the roar until it went out of distance, lasted about 2 minutes. And, our ears popped so hard. It was the power was just unbelievable. But we waited, and of course my nephew wanted to get out quicker, but all I could think of was all the tornadoes that dropped down. The vortex come down out of the clouds as the storm was.
Hello.
So you're cutting in and out.
Sorry. So we waited just a few more seconds, and then we went out. My nephew came in my bag, and I heard him say, well, that's not so bad. And then he went to the front door, and I just heard him say, oh, my God, oh, my God. And that's where the garage door was on that side. And we made my mom, my great stay in the shelter, and we came out because we didn't know if there were going to be bodies or what we were going to find. But he's an RN nurse, an ER nurse, and so he just took off running to where he heard screams, and he dug a person out, and he's okay. But it was just unbelievable what we saw. There were dogs running everywhere. You know, they had no yards anymore, and people were just in daze walking down the street, and they just didn't know what to do, or you just felt totally lost. And
that's just an incredible story. Sue, what do you need from us now? What can we do for you?
Well, I am fine. I am so fortunate. You know, I feel really good compared to my neighbors. They just need help cleaning up. I mean, it's just unbelievable the amount of litter there is, and for miles and miles. But there's so much help here, and it's just wonderful. You know, so many people are coming from out of state and out of town, and even locals. You know, there's just so many people here, but it's still going to take so many hands to move all this stuff. But,
well, Sue, we appreciate you joining us today, and so thankful that you and your mother and your family are okay, and know that there are people all over this country praying for, especially people like you who love the Lord and who survived this tragedy.
Thank you.
You bet. Thank
Sue,
you very
thanks
much.
so much for your story. Wow.
I want to go now to Chris. Chris, it seems that in a 13-year period, we had 3 tornadoes make the Shawnee Moore run. Okay. Coincidence?
It seems, I mean, that's, Tornado Alley. That's kind of the hotbed of where tornadoes form. I mean, Norman, Oklahoma, that's where the Storm Prediction Center is. That's where all the, convective outlooks come out from.
What do you mean convected out?
That is kind of where they say, okay, there's going to be severe weather here, and it's going to have, wind, hail, tornado threat, and they kind of give a percentage chance on what's going to happen with that.
So what does convected mean?
The convective?
Yeah.
Basically, the turbulence in the atmosphere.
Yeah, okay. Come together. The warm and the cold. I mean, it is nature's nature at its most powerful.
Right.
And before we get to you on Where Was God, you've got one more caller that you want to bring in, right?
Is he online? Is
yes,
Jeff
he
online?
Is. Yes, he
Jeff,
is.
All right. Jeff, you there?
Yeah, we're here.
Hey, Jeff, how are you?
Doing well.
Good. Now, Jeff, you the reason why we want to get you on the line is because you were pretty instrumental in the case down in Joplin, and you put together some good things there. You're kind of our resident expert now concerning, okay, what do these people need? What's the best way we can help them and all that? So can you speak to that and just kind of highlight some of the things you were telling me yesterday?
Sure. As far as, getting help to folks, they're going to need a lot of heavy lifting for quite a while. I heard earlier there was a guy that was going down and cooking meals. That's extremely, extremely important for folks, the volunteers and everybody, to have food available and a place to take showers to get cleaned up.
Oh, yeah.
You go down there, you're going to smell pretty bad after a while.
Sure.
Yeah, and you may be thinking, well, what? That's a dumb thing to ask for. How are you going to set up showers? Campers.
Yeah.
Exactly.
If you've got a motorhome, if it's that $1 million motorhome, I don't care. We need your shower.
Yeah.
That's right. Set up the camping shower systems. There's even folks that have shower trailers that came to Joplin that were just extremely helpful for the mass amounts of volunteers that showed up to just really work.
Yeah, and they don't need water. What else don't they need?
They do not need used clothing.
Okay.
Yeah. Tend to dump your...
It's not time to back up the garage sale stuff in plastic bags and just send it. If you want to send clothing, go out and buy new stuff, label it, and send it.
Yeah, because otherwise they've got to take all this clothing and package it and then dispensing is going to be a problem. Yeah.
Exactly. What they have to do is they have to take manpower of volunteers that should be helping to clean up the mess and help people get their lives back together, and have to use them to sort through clothing to try to utilize what's been given and be good stewards of what's been given. So it almost becomes a waste of labor hours for that particular thing.
Well, another thing that I was impressed with your story is that you set up a warehouse, and when people came in looking for help, you not only sought to give them the practical help, but you also try to point them in the right direction. Walk us through how that looked.
Yeah, but my wife was asked to be the director of what we call Mission Joplin now, the Tuesday after the storm hit on Sunday. And, after the first couple of weeks, we kind of got out of the panic chaos mode of just, trying to help people get the things that they needed to survive day to day, and then really started getting into let's plug you into agencies or help, or we even had a lot of mental health professionals coming out because really like a post-traumatic stress disorder type of thing took hold, and people were just afraid of everything. And so that became a major point for us to try to tackle that really help folks.
Do you point people to Christ at all?
Every time we turn around, man.
So walk me through, how did that look?
I'll let you talk to my wife on that deal. Hang on just a second.
Okay.
I was really on the back of the forklift doing a lot of the unloading.
Sure.
She was the one in the trenches doing all that really
Sure.
lifting.
Hey, Misty, how are you?
Good, I'm good, thank you.
Good. Misty, one of the things I had a question to Jeff of, and he gave us over to you, is I asked him, how did you present Christ to these people that were coming in looking for help?
Really, just early on, I was listening to Jeff say, at the beginning it's just that crisis mode where people are in survival mode. But even at that, it's just a matter of taking the time to pray with him. And then from there, it was truly, I don't know, God deserves so much glory for what has happened in our cities, that hearts were so incredibly open to the Lord because they knew he had spared their lives. There was no question. And so people that maybe had never given him any thought or any credit, all of a sudden they knew. And of course, you all have probably heard just tons of stories that have come out of just where it was nothing but the hand of God in a very literal sense. You'll have children say, well, Mom, that we survived because that man had his hand right over us. There's stories like that of children just over and over just proclaiming things that happened during the storm, and just a sense of peace that came over entire families right in the midst of the storm.
Misty, how would you respond to somebody that says something like, well, what about the people that lost their life? Where was God with those?
To be very, very honest, that's the question that every time somebody asks you, you're letting the Holy Spirit lead you as you continue on in that conversation. Because it is hard. That's a question that we all grapple with different times in our lives, depending on what tragedy we face, I guess.
Wow. Yeah, you're breaking up, Misty. So,
Misty, thank you very much for being on the air, both you and your husband, and we appreciate all the ministry work you do, and look forward to meeting you someday ourselves. Okay, she's gone.
Yeah.
You know how I would answer that, Mike? As a Christian, where do we want to be?
What do you mean by that?
We want to be in God's arms.
Right.
We want to live eternally with God.
Right.
So no matter how he brings us home, they're home.
Well, yeah, but they may not be home if they haven't given their life to Christ.
Well, then if somebody comes up and says to me, well, why does God do this? And you say, well, your grandmother's now with God. Well, she didn't believe in God. Then, well,
The way
I guess you should have listened.
Yeah, that's right. The way I would answer it, and this is not the time to give this answer out, and when people are going through a lot of pain, but let's stop and think about this, is the reason why bad things happen to people is because we're sinners, and that sin has a consequence. Death is the result of sin.
Mm-hmm.
It happened in the garden. God said, because you did something I told you not to do, you're going to die. Now, for some people, it's going to be in the storm. For some people, it will be an earthquake. Some people, it will be a heart attack. But God provides a way out of that, and that is his son, Jesus Christ. And I love what C.S. Lewis writes. He said, God whispers to us in our pleasures. He speaks to us in our conscience, but he shouts to us in our pain. And if there's anything that comes through in these stories, is that God gives these as wake-up calls to the survivors. This is a wake-up call to everybody who hears the story. It's a wake-up call to everybody who was down there. It's a wake-up call to remind us this world's not our home. There's a day of judgment coming, and we need to get our stuff together. And if we're not ready, then God's mercy will only last so long before his justice kicks in. And it's a reminder to us that God loves us, and yet he's very just, and he doesn't want to be messed with.
Bob, how do you answer that? I mean, people know that you have a love for your Lord, and they must come to you, especially in times of tragedy. And, you know, the question I always get, which just breaks my heart, is where was your God? Where was your God when the middle of 24 people dying?
Well, where he always is. You know, I mean, he doesn't go anywhere. He's always there. He's loving God. And you know, people say, well, how could he be that way when these disasters take place? Well, you know, we know when we look at Scripture that the Scripture tells us that life is not going to be great all the time. We're going to have trials and tribulations that come through. But it also says that he's overcome the world. You mentioned earlier about the fact that, you know, for a believer, yeah, you'll be in the Lord's, you know, in his arms, but we also have to think about the survivors, the people that are still left behind. Those are the ones that are suffering. I don't grieve. It's interesting, but I don't grieve for the people that are gone. I grieve for those that are surviving, that deal with it. And so they're going to have a lot of questions, and they're going to show a lot of anger, and that's a normal thing. But eventually, there is times when you can talk to people and really talk about the Lord to them. But you've got to give them the time. And when they're in this crisis mode, is a lot of times there's not much you can do but be a listener, be there, stand by them, and experience their anger. So I've been through a lot of these different ones.
I know
and experienced a lot of these things, and we hurt, and I hurt as responders. People that go to help really feel the pain of this.
Yeah, that's the other person that we have to make sure we take care of, and that's kind of what both of our folks said today is we're here to take care of the volunteers.
Right.
We're here to take care of the people that are helping the people.
Right.
I think that's incredible that that's the way it would look at, because you'd think you'd run down there to clothe them and give them water to drink and food to eat and start to rebuild their houses. But the first thing you got to do is you got to support the people who support the people.
Yeah, you take on their pain. You do.
Next week, a young lady who lived a alcohol-dredged life, children out of wedlock, prison for drugs, and in the middle of it, she found one of the nation's best women's correctional facility ministries. That's next week on Restoring Hope Live. Make sure you check out our website where all the programs are there. And until we see you again at this time a week from now, do us one favor, please. Just pray.
Restore